Let's start with the big party trick.
Yeah.
What prompted you to learn and memorize all 154 of Shakespeare's sonnets?
Envy, I think. Jealousy.
I
Other
love
act.
it. Bitterness is such a great motivator. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is, wherever you are. I'm Austin Titchener, co-artistic director of the Reduced Shakespeare Company, and you're listening to this week's Reduced Shakespeare Company podcast, now in its 20th year, number 1005, memorizing Shakespeare's sonnets. William Sutton has memorized all of Shakespeare's sonnets, so you don't have to. Will is an actor, educator, and the creator of iloveshakespeare.com, a collection and examination of all 154 of Shakespeare's sonnets, organized by themes of love, death, nature, pain, and time. Will began our conversation by telling me how he got introduced to Shakespeare's sonnets in the first place.
I was at the Stalharderij Theatre Group. It was a small group in the Jordaan here in Amsterdam. And the play was Two Gentlemen of Verona, and we were told to memorize a sonnet for the audition. I didn't. I got eight lines in. I was, didn't really get it. I didn't connect.
Uh-huh.
I didn't get the role, obviously. So after that, I was sitting in a coffee shop in Amsterdam, and I had a book coupon for acting at the Film Academy in Amsterdam. And so I took it to the bookstore, and it turned out to be 24th of April, 1991 is when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I took it back to the coffee shop and started reading, and my life changed from that moment. I suddenly had an entrance into who Shakespeare was, just me and him. I was sitting at his elbow as he dip, scratch, scratch, scratch that ink onto the parchment paper. What did he use? I don't know. There's so many questions came up from
Right.
just that investigation. I lost years of my life just looking at that and going deeper and deeper into these things to find out what makes them run and to get my familiarity with Shakespeare
Mm-hmm.
and speaking Shakespeare. That's what I wanted to do most. I wanted to sound like those guys sound.
But when you sat down with the sonnets, they weren't abstract to you. They weren't lines spoken by a character like Richard III or Romeo. They spoke to you in a way, and I'm curious how they managed to speak to you.
It was exactly that. First was complete incomprehension. Let's face it.
Yeah.
And I even know, I opened up the sonnet book at random and I got Sonnet 18. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? And I read through it, didn't get it, went to the introduction, read a whole bunch of stuff that relied on literary terms and thought, ugh. And then I went back into the poems themselves and I started to look around for things that interested me. Worms came in and I was like, oh, I was like, worms? What in the sun? What? Okay. Lots of death. That was wonderful too. There's just
Hmm.
explaining these things. And so I just decided to amble through them. And sort of before I knew it, I was getting to know this person that was writing them, even though I couldn't get to know him, but I was getting to know him and thinking, really, dude, you want to say this? You want to say this aloud? That's odd. And you're doing it to another dude as well. And then the woman, there's a threesome going on. I mean, the storyline is pathetic in the sonnets. It's nothing.
Right.
This is Shakespeare we're talking about. In any
Right.
of the great tragedies, he could have written anything he wanted. But he chose these shallow archetypal representations of male, female, and then brought in the biggies: time, nature, death,
Right.
immortality.
Yeah. Do they feel to you? This is a leading question because I know how I feel about it.
So,
Do the sonnets feel to you like personal declarations or poems for hire?
oh, Definitely a mixture of both. I
Hmm.
mean, let's face it, the guy was a working writer and actor, and he knew both crafts. And he happened to be connected to both crafts
Yeah.
through Richard Field on the one side from the Stratford-on-Avon connection, him
Hmm.
working for Vautelier, good Lord, the printer whose printing shop he took over, marrying the widow of Vautelier. That was fascinating. And
Yeah.
to know that he was in there, that first poem, of course, was Venus and Adonis, followed by given away by Field, but Rape of Lucretia next year later. The guy was a hit on the bookshelves, but he still had to hustle.
A hit on the bookshelves, and yet he seemed to be less interested in staying a hit on the bookshelves and more into getting
Yeah,
these words spoken not just by him, but by other
no,
actors in playhouses.
yeah, spoken and felt.
Yeah.
Spoken and felt. It's the experiential with Shakespeare. And you only know that when you speak Shakespeare. If you memorize and speak Shakespeare, you join a pantheon of actors that have gone before you.
Yeah.
And doesn't matter who's doing the lines of Hamlet. You're channeling that character. And he knew, I believe, that he would know that. So in that sense, he was working for himself. He
Mm,
was working, giving his point of view,
right.
but he wasn't. I mean, why did they get written in the first place? There's got the whole first 17, maybe to the Earl of Southampton for his 17th birthday, paid by his mother, who was trying to, get away with the Catholic thing against Elizabeth's court, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many little pathways off of just the sonnets themselves,
Yeah.
really.
5 years ago or so, Paul Edmondson and Stanley Wells came out with their book, All the Sonnets of Shakespeare, which proposes a new order for Shakespeare's 154 sonnets. And they published the sonnets and talk about them in the order in which they think they were actually written. How do you
Yeah.
feel about that? And having memorized them all as a
Yeah.
corpus, how do you feel about that idea?
Um, I think it's extremely difficult to attribute people's writings from 500 years ago to when in particular they actually did something. So I remain a little agnostic on the topic itself, actually,
Hmm.
just because there are so many factors involved about and yeah. So Stanley and Paul absolutely put together a beautiful book, and that's joins the other reorderings, which, as far as I know, are in the tens, 80s, something like that.
Hmm.
It's a lot.
And do you, knowing all 154 sonnets as you do you feel like they tell a story or a series of stories, or are they 154 short portraits that create a mosaic?
No. And this is where I differ from Stanley and Paul. Stanley and Paul both say that, oh, they could have been written to anyone. It could have been written to somebody here, it could have been written to somebody there. I think he's going, it's a major theme from 1 to 126. Whether you like it or not, whether you just put it that way because literary history has told us to do that. But there's the major theme from 1 to 126, closed off with those six couplet sonnets, the
Hmm.
126. And then there's the final sonnets to the mistress, the dark lady, however you want to name her. And I see too many pairs, too many triplets, too many little series. You have between 40 and 43, you've got the dark lady and the poet and the fair young man to get into a triangle affair.
Hmm.
And he's apologizing to the fair young man. Oh, so sorry I introduced you to her. It's my fault, not yours. But then
Mm.
when he covers that same situation in, I think it's like 132 up to 134, in the Dark Lady sonnets or the Mistress sonnets, it's like, yeah, you knew what you were doing. You stole him on purpose. You're a mean person. There's a completely different. It feels like he's sending it at least to two different archetypes. One is masculine, the other's feminine, and then
Interesting.
time, and nature stand outside of that. That's more where I stand on it.
And has your study of the sonnets informed your understanding of Shakespeare's plays?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It brought me down to earth a little bit with going so high flown with what Shakespeare meant.
Mm,
I'm actually a bear of very little brain, so I don't, I don't think of myself as any intellectual giant, so I can't really argue the what's Evelyn Waugh's son again, when they got come in with false candidates of who it was who wrote Shakespeare stuff. And I
right.
mean, these guys are brilliant, they know their stuff, but I just not I'm not smart enough, I think, to fight their arguments cogently, because I get too emotionally involved with it, and so I think the emotion that's hidden in the words is, for me, the most important thing about Shakespeare. The print is just a container for emotion, and that emotion works from a phonemic level up to denotations, connotations. That's and it's all of that at once. And if it's conflicting, then fine. It
Right.
means more things at once. And if those things contradict one another, fine, so be it.
Yeah, that's
Fact
life,
two
isn't it?
is true.
Yes.
Fact two is true, as
Yeah.
far as I've experienced life.
Yeah.
So those are the understandings that I think that I see within Shakespeare. But again, I could just be making a big shiny mirror and just seeing myself, echo chambering myself back again.
I think we all do that with Shakespeare. We know so little about him. He becomes the mirror up to which we hold ourselves. We see
Yeah.
ourselves.
All
Yeah.
right. And as I spent a year at the Shakespeare Institute in Stratford. There was only 5 of us in that particular course, but as a classmate said, you could fit everything we know about Shakespeare on the back of a beer mat.
Yeah, it's true. Well, and we are well matched because as a scholar, I am a reduced scholar at best.
Excellent.
Hello, I'm Devon Glover, also known as the Sonnet Man, and you are listening to the Reduced Shakespeare Company podcast.
Where can you RSC the RSC? In the U.S., we'll be performing All the Great Books Abridged in April 2026 in Sault Ste. Marie in Holland, Michigan, and Adam Long's newly reimagined production of the complete works of William Shakespeare Abridged will be playing across the UK in Worcester, Epsom, Coventry, Huddersfield, Salisbury, Bristol, Guildford, Lichfield, Southampton, Poole, Hertford, Bedford, Tunbridge Wells, Newbury, Taunton, Exeter, Northampton, Bolton, Watford, Oxford, Ipswich, Bury St. Edmunds, Keswick, Newcastle, Doncaster, Wakefield, and York. Check out the touring page at our website, reducedshakespeare.com, or our social media pages for venue and ticket information. And now back to my conversation with William Sutton, talking about how he's memorized Shakespeare's sonnets and created his website, iloveshakespeare.com. We are told so frequently that everything an actor needs is in the text, and that's not true, because the text requires emotion, it requires presence, it requires the relationship between other actors, the relationship between the actors and the audience.
You see, I'm nodding vigorously as you're saying.
Yes, I do. Yes.
It's absolutely the fact, and that's what I'm trying to pass on when I do a workshop with Shakespeare's words. I'm not there to tell you how to do Shakespeare. I'm there to teach you how to get out of your own way and allow your own presence to be there with these words. And I guarantee you something's going to happen. Something's going to change, and you will find yourself on a journey of finding out some kind of emergent property that was not there when you first started the process. That's, for me, the essence of it.
We met last month at the Shakespeare Theatre Association conference up in St. John's, Newfoundland, and I believe it was your first conference. Was it useful to you? Was it fun meeting like-minded folks?
I loved it. I made new friends. I met old acquaintances, many people. Devon was there, Devon Glover, also a sonnet guy. Last year, Devon, Ben, and I were at Shakespeare's grave on the birthday with the auction of the quill. They auction the quill off every year. They do a big parade through Stratford during the day. All the school kids have to buy flowers and bring them to the parade and then march around, and no matter what kind of weather it is, to the
Wow.
church, wait for hours, and then they put them at the altar in the front. So when we came in the evening, it was only the people who were belonging to the Friends of Holy Trinity, the Reverend, lovely man, his name I've forgotten, unfortunately, at the moment. Lovely person, I just remember that. And they were having champagne, and Ben, myself, and Devon got to recite a sonnet at the gravesite.
Oh,
Yes.
what an honor.
Oh yeah, that was one of those, yes, one of those you can't take this away from me moments.
Could you detect any seismic activity? Was Will rolling in his grave?
Well, actually, as I was told many years ago by scholars at the Shakespeare Institute, it's highly likely that the waters of the Avon have just washed all of that stuff away. So I don't know if I don't know if that's whether he was there. I remember being in a pub one time with Paul Prescott, who's another academic at Warwick, and we were in a pub, and Ben was there again, and we were talking to a local builder, and that local builder had been working on the church. And there was that documentary on the TV on the BBC about talking about what was in the grave, and this guy was saying like, no, my mate's got the skull on his mantelpiece. And it was just like it's just like one of those little pub stories where you go like, and it came out of nowhere, and he really was a builder for the church. So it was just one of those little stories that you go like, now I see how these kind of stories get passed on through history, going back through Stratford's history.
Shakespeare exists in various skulls on various mantles around the world, and also in his words and in the performance of them by folks like yourself. Can I put you on the spot and call out a number and have you recite it?
I hope so.
One of my favorites, 138.
138. When my love swears that she's made of truth, I do believe her, though I know she lies, that she might think me some untutored youth, unlearned in the world's false subtle ties. Thus vainly thinking that she thinks me young, although she knows my days are past the best. Simply I credit her false speaking tongue. On both sides thus is simple truth suppressed. But wherefore says she not she is unjust? And wherefore say not I that I am old? Oh, love's best habit is in seeming trust, and age in love loves not to have years told. Therefore I lie with her, and she with me. And in our faults, by lies, we flattered be.
Oh, bravo. And I can testify that you just launched into it. You didn't call it up on your phone. You weren't reading it off a screen or a page. Bravo, sir. You also interpret that sonnet the way I interpret it, which is that,
Oh, nice.
yeah, it's an understanding of a long-standing relationship. And it boggles my mind that a young man might have written that sonnet. Do you have a sense of how old he was when he wrote 138?
Oh, well, we do know that the sonnets took 3 years to write, right? That's in Sonnet 104. Three beauteous springs to yellow autumns turned in process of the seasons have I seen, right? So we know it's been 3 years since he started this journey. Most of the Dark Lady sonnets, I would up past 1600 mark easily.
Okay.
Going towards 1607, 8, who knows when he finally put the quill down on the sonnets. I believe, by the way, I have a theory about why there are 154. Okay. Maximum number of syllables in a sonnet. 10 times 14 is 140. Maximum number of syllables in a feminine sonnet, i.e., Each line has an extra syllable. 14 times 11 is 154.
I love it. That's it for this week's Reduced Shakespeare Company podcast, except for one more thing, which I'll share with you in about 60 seconds, so stick around. You can learn more about William Sutton's work and teaching and all of Shakespeare's sonnets by going to his website, iloveshakespeare.com. And let me remind you that for a limited time, Arden Publishers are giving RSC fans a 35% discount off the hardcover edition of Ronan Hatful's book, Shakespeare in the Theater, Reduced Shakespeare Company. Go to bloomsbury.com and type in promo code RSC when you check out. Send us your sonnet insights via email to feedback@reducedshakespeare.com, or throw a comment to us over on the socials or on our own actual website, reducedshakespeare.com, or visit my website, theshakespeareans.com. Thanks as always to 11-syllable line Matthew Croak, web services by Ginger Power Limited, music by John Weber and GarageBand. Our random fan shout-out this week goes to Stephanie Shaw. No reason, it's just random. Special thanks to the Sonnet man himself, Devon Glover. You can find out more information about Devon's music and teaching at sonnetman.com. And as always, thanks very much to you for listening. I'm Austin Tishner, 1005 3015ths of the Reduced Shakespeare Company. Will, your enthusiasm about this topic and Shakespeare generally is infectious. And I hope that our little conversation can help spread your fame even more widely. It's just a delight talking with you.
Awesome. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
This podcast is a production of the Reduced Shakespeare Company, reducing expectations since 1981. Go to reducedshakespeare.com for performance dates, actor bios, email newsletters, and so much less.